Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for another Star Wars Battlefront II video. As the vast majority of you are probably aware, Count Dooku has finally made his way into Battlefront II, and I've spent as much time as possible with Dooku over the past day, really just figuring him out and beginning to master his playstyle so I can get you guys a full in-depth hero guide this weekend, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. This video, however, is not a hero guide, but is instead more of a hero review. I did one of these for General Grievous because he was an absolute broken mess when he was first released. I didn't do one for Obi-Wan because he didn't really leave any super strong impressions on me at first. He is still a very middle-of-the-road hero, but the same cannot be said for Dooku, as I have some very strong feelings on how Dooku fits into Battlefront 2 and how he compares to the other heroes in the game. Now, obviously, I haven't had a ton of time with Dooku yet. I'm currently at level 14 and plan on getting to 25 before beginning to work on my hero guide. Most of my time with Dooku has been spent in heroes versus villains, with a handful of Galactic Assault matches thrown in there, but it's time to answer the question a lot of you guys are probably wondering. Was Dooku, who was announced over 6 months ago at this point, worth the very long wait? Does he match the community's very high expectations? And from a visual standpoint, absolutely. In fact, of the 3 new heroes that have been added to Battlefront 2, I think Dooku is my favorite based on looks alone. His fighting animations are phenomenal, his lightning looks so much better than Palpatine's even does, and seriously feels like it's been taken straight off of the original Attack of the Clones film stock and just placed in-game, and DICE has managed to combine Dooku's fighting style from the Clone Wars animated series with Christopher Lee's look and demeanor without it feeling really unrealistic. That was something I was very worried about, as in the movies, Count Dooku isn't exactly pulling off crazy moves left and right. He is very limited in his movement, mostly due to Christopher Lee's limitations, but in the Clone Wars, Dooku is a much more mobile opponent, and DICE combined those flawlessly. Not to mention, Corey Burton also does a fantastic job as the voice of Count Dooku, and it really doesn't feel odd whatsoever. With Obi-Wan, I think it works well enough, but there is definitely more of a contrast between Obi-Wan looking like Ewan McGregor, yet sounding like James Arnold Taylor, and while it does work the majority of the time, there are definitely moments where it really sticks out like a sore thumb. With Dooku, that is not a problem in the slightest. DICE pulled it off without a single flaw, and in that way, Dooku was not a disappointment in any way. When it comes to how Dooku plays in-game, well, that could very well be a completely different answer. With Grievous, when he first came out, he looked and sounded absolutely great, but gameplay-wise, Grievous was initially a mess, and some of those problems are still present with Grievous today, but we're not here to talk about Grievous. The question is, can Count Dooku hold his own on the battlefront? Does he have what it takes to take on even some of the strongest light side heroes? And I don't know how else to say this, but hell to the yes. Sorry to keep you in suspense, but oh my god, Dooku is a beast, and so far, I've ran into literally 0 glitches with him. He is polished to a level that I truly did not think DICE was capable of. I honestly feel a little strange raving about Dooku in the first place, because of the 4 new Clone Wars heroes, Dooku was by far my least anticipated, at least personally. I was much more excited for Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Grievous, but my god, my expectations have officially been blown out of the water. That is not even mentioning how bizarre everything surrounding this update was. I mean, right before the update came out, DICE announced out of the blue that not only were they delaying Count Dooku's alternate skin, but they also wouldn't be releasing the Coruscant Guard until next month, so understandably, a lot of people, myself included, were very worried that that could mean that Dooku would be rushed out the door half-finished like Grievous was, but that is not the case in any way. But let's just talk about the details here. Like I mentioned earlier, most of my time with Dooku has been in heroes versus villains, and the dark side is already very dominant in that mode, with a lot of really big players and very strong heroes. Even with that in mind, Dooku is a top tier hero, easily top 3 with Vader and Grievous, and I don't even have the guy fully upgraded yet. His lightning stun is so consistent, it's almost unbelievable for this game. If you are in range, it will hit anyone you are aiming for. I feel like I'm gonna have some people down in the comment section down below just saying that the lightning doesn't work for them, and I can tell you the reason for that is it's because it does have a pretty short range. My first few times using Dooku, it took me a while to get used to the range being so much shorter than Emperor Palpatine's, but once you figure it out, you can use it to throw down an entire enemy team, and the animation is short enough where it doesn't put you at a huge risk at all, especially because it stuns them. If you're facing off with a single non-heavy trooper, personally I prefer to just use my saber to kill them, so it's not as much of an unnecessary risk, but for any enemy that has enough health to get the benefit of the stun, it is a fantastic ability. His lightning stun is just incredible. Shock them, which deals around 160 damage, throw them down, and they'll be weak enough to clean house on. I've taken on on so many teams exactly that way, and it's just such a brutal combo. His exposed weakness is another ability that really is very well thought out, and the targeting system for that ability actually works, shockingly enough, and pun intended right there. The ability slows down the target, grants you and your teammates bonus damage against that person, and then outlines that target for you so you can't lose them. As an added bonus, if you manage to kill them while the ability is active, it instantaneously refreshes. All I can say about this ability is, oh my god, is it useful against runners. If you have some loser Luke player just sprinting away as fast as he can and never fighting, this ability has enough range where if you can even get somewhat close to them, you can easily snipe them with it, slow them down, and then just make their life a whole lot more difficult. Like I initially thought when I read the description, this ability is very, very situational in Galactic Assault. It has a relatively long animation, and really, it's just not worth using against a regular trooper, and with so many enemies that can come from any direction and mode like that, use it very, very sparingly and very carefully, and I would mostly recommend only using it against heroes or maybe reinforcements. Using this against a standard trooper is going to be overkill and a totally unnecessary risk because, like I said, the animation is pretty lengthy. There's nothing wrong with an ability that's stronger in one mode than another though. Just like Mind Trick, Exposed Weakness is really great for heroes versus villains and is pretty situational in Galactic Assault. His final ability, Duelist, is also awesome if you guys are seeing the trend here. This ability changes Dooku's fighting stance and he only uses one hand during this, striking faster while also dealing additional damage, and this one is just fantastic. In HVV, if you try to outspam another lightsaber hero without Duelist active, you are probably going to lose if you're just button mashing, and I wouldn't recommend spamming anyways, but I know a lot of people do that. With Duelist, you can just pop it and pretty much pwn anyone with how fast you drain health. You'd also think an ability like this would be a little situational in Galactic Assault, but it really isn't in any way. This allows you to one-shot every single class but heavy, two-shot reinforcements, and really just clean up on large groups with ease. I was a little bit worried the Duelist was going to be some kind of broken Frenzy knockoff, but it really isn't at all. It's very unique and really takes heroes by surprise when you absolutely melt them with Duelist active. I should also briefly talk about the basics of Dooku. As far as his movement goes, he's definitely on the slower side of things, but again, that totally makes sense, and it would feel very, very strange if Dooku were sprinting around the battlefront at the speed of light. And he's not slow enough where it ever feels like a huge hindrance. It's always perfectly fine. His force jump is great, just like most other force users, and allows him to traverse most maps with complete ease, and really, his presence on the battlefront is absolutely perfect. When you load up a match of heroes versus villains and you get a lineup like Vader, Palpatine, Dooku, and Grievous, man is that so satisfying and really makes you and your team feel very powerful. Even though I've been praising Dooku in HVV a lot, he is no slouch in Galactic Assault, and he really is that rare hero where you almost always feel well equipped to deal with any situation. The majority of heroes in this game excel in one situation, yet are an absolutely terrible pick in another, whereas heroes like Dooku feel right at home at almost any range against a variety of different opponents. His banter with other heroes and other villains is also really, really hilarious. He has some great lines in there. I really just can't stress enough just how polished and balanced Dooku feels. He feels like he belongs in this game and is the first new hero we've got where every ability feels well thought out and is actually useful. Grievous arrived with two broken abilities, one of which is still very buggy. Obi-Wan was more of a mixed bag. He definitely had some bugs, but was more than usable at his release, whereas Dooku seriously feels pretty much flawless. I truly have no complaints about him whatsoever. Obviously, the way this update was released left a lot to be desired. Half of the content schedule was delayed, DICE didn't even manage to release an image of Dooku before he came out, and the trailer didn't even release until like 6 p.m. last night. I don't know who's in charge of that sort of thing, but they really need to step up their game. But when it comes to the hero designer for Dooku, massive props, and really, that was the most important thing about this update. He is awesome, and I cannot wait to jump into another game and upgrade him even further and get that hero guide out for you guys. Like I said, expect that new episode of How to Not Suck this weekend. Unless something goes horribly wrong, I think I should have it wrapped up by Saturday for you guys, and hopefully it helps you guys all out. Be sure to leave your thoughts on Dooku in the comment section down below, and if you enjoyed today's video, I'd definitely appreciate it if you could drop a like, and if you are new around here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, as we would be honored if you would join us. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. I'm Han Solo.